Okay, so really quickly, before we even go through any of this review, I recorded the review, and there were a couple of things I didn't talk about. So just a few things really quickly. The kiss, for all the people that aren't shipping Atticus and Leti, I don't know, man. I like that kiss. Okay, I did. I really did. Uh, One of the other things also is it's kind of a big thing actually. Um, it's a channel that I want to recommend to you guys. I was gonna put it in here, and again, 8 o'clock in the morning me does not think all the time. And but 7:17 me at night remembered, and I ran into a channel just the like a week or so ago from a lovely lady, a lovely young woman. Her channel is called Always Watching, and I found her channel through looking up other people's reviews for this show. And I can't recommend her channel enough. She is a fantastic reviewer. She doesn't do, I don't watch all of her stuff because I haven't seen all the stuff that she covers, but I watched her Perry Mason finale. And her Perry Mason finale review was so good, only a couple of minutes in and I was already subscribing. So do yourself a favor and go check out Always Watching's channel. I I can't, like I said, she is an incredible reviewer. I actually was like ashamed of my reviews. But for a second, I realized my style is my style, her style is her style. But to put it to you, for all you nerds out there, I'll give you an analogy. Okay, my reviews, if they were an X-Man, nerd, nerd, uh, would be Logan. Okay, they're blunt and in your face, and they'll cut you up sometimes. Right? Sometimes they just gotta hit you right where you live. Right? Just she's like Jean Grey. Okay, she is like Jean Grey, just speaking eloquently and earnestly, and just I love it. And I now watch all her stuff, and I want you guys to go check out, send her some love over at Always Watching. If definitely subscribe to her channel. She's been doing this for like about a year or so. And like I said, I can't recommend it highly enough. She covers Lovecraft Country. If you're interested in more Lovecraft Country, and believe me, you're going to want to hear what she has to say because she goes above and beyond what I talk about. So that's it. That was all I had left to say. The kiss, and go check out Always Watching's channel. She's fantastic. She deserves to be a bigger channel. So enjoy the review. All right, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews, back to talk more Lovecraft Country. We're on season 1, episode 4. It's called The History of Violence. A couple of things. This is Saturday when I'm recording this. It's 8:13 in the morning. And why am I telling you this? Well, they dropped it early for, I guess, people with hbomax. I don't know if, I assume then the rest of the audience who just has regular HBO or HBO Now or whatever would have to wait to see it. So here I am, getting early access to something. Now, I know a lot of people probably have early access to this episode. But to not be a hypocrite, because I've been complaining that a lot of people are releasing their reviews for this show really early to jump on and get all the views. So we're not going to do that. I'm not going to release this today. I'm going to release this at 9:30 on Sunday, a half an hour after the episode would normally air. because it's just right, to let everybody see it and then do it. This isn't like a movie review where, somebody doesn't, they'll tell you what they think, but they won't spoil anything, that kind of thing. But like we talk about all of this, so there's always going to be spoilers. So I'm not going to say anything until I'm not going to release this until Sunday night. So when you're seeing this, that's when this is. It's 9:30 Sunday. Um, so yeah, and if they ever do this again, I think it's probably because it's Labor Day weekend, and they knew that people would probably be out and about and doing other things, so they dropped it early. But they dropped it. They dropped it last night. They dropped it yesterday, I think. Um, so anyway, there's a few things. There's another thing I want to talk about. First off, thanks to everybody that watched the last review. That was really awesome. It's nice to see a sudden uptick in the viewership, even if it is just for one review. I really appreciate all the comments that this show has been getting. You guys are great. You guys have so many interesting things to say. And one of the best things I can say is I didn't know about the Emmett Till connection in the last episode. Um, Everybody else had to point it out to me because when you're watching it, because this is what's great about the comment section, is I'm watching it for myself. I'm watching it for entertainment value. I'm also taking all these notes, pages of notes. I got a whole book of just notes from shows, right? So I'm watching it to watch it, but I also have to watch it for the notes, and then I'm also kind of preparing in my head what I'm going to do. Sort of. Mostly improvised notes. So I don't catch everything. And one of the biggest things was the Emmett Till connection that was in the Ouija board scene. And here's the other thing is, and yeah, when I was a kid, the biggest child death was when that kid Adam went missing in the 80s. If you don't know what I'm talking about, well, the host of America's Most Wanted, was it Walsh? He lost his kid in the 80s. He was kidnapped and then he was later found murdered. And for white kids and a lot of families, that was we got to protect the children. And so that stuck with me. But Emmett Till was a young man who was killed in 1955, brutally murdered, and the details are horrifying. And it's just another way that something like this can be forgotten. Now, I'm not saying by African Americans, but by the rest of a lot of other people, including myself. I knew this name. I know I knew this name. I heard the name said, and it kind of popped in my head, but I still didn't remember all the facts. And that's the thing. That's messed up. Like, how can things like this be forgotten by people like me? And it just shows, like, as much as I am trying to, be better and trying to acknowledge these things, so much of these horrific atrocities have been forgotten by the larger world. And how many of them? Because there's a lot of Emmett Tills out there. There's countless, practically. And it just, again, makes me just kind of mad at myself. Because I love history. I love even the dark history. Like the dark periods of life. And there's a lot of it. It's mostly dark, actually. It's mostly just pretty horrifying stuff. But when I looked it all up and was reminded, and it all kind of came flooding back to me, the story of Emmett Till. It's just another way that we need to wake up. We need to relearn. We need to look up our history. And by our history, it's all of our history, okay? Just because it happens to one culture doesn't mean that it's not, it's not part of everyone's history. It's all our history. We're all human beings. And we shouldn't forget people like Emmett Till. Like, I would hate for people to suddenly, 50 years from now, forget Breonna Taylor or Jacob Floyd. Sorry, George Floyd. I'm sorry, Jacob Blake. Like all the names that of the people that are dying right now. Sorry, there's so much bad stuff. It's like making my head want to explode. And so can you imagine like 50 years just everybody forgetting all these details that people have forgotten about all the names of the people that have been brutally murdered because of the color of their skin. Brutally. I don't know why I has pointed the word brutally out twice, but anyway, we're already 6 minutes in. I barely talked about anything. Just wanted to bring that up. This episode, though, to me, it's less horror and more like an old time serial that they used to do, or like more like Indiana Jones kind of thing, where it's like an old adventure story mixed with some supernatural elements going on. So we've had like the first two episodes were our big setup episodes. You got the haunted house episode last week. Now we've got kind of our old time adventure, which also made me think of like the Mummy with Brendan Fraser. Just those kind of style of where we got a little group of people going in trying to find treasure. Except in this, it's more like trying to find pages of magic to protect themselves from the people that are trying to kill them. Mainly right now, Christina, and I guess William's working with her. So the whitest guy in the universe, yeah, he's definitely not a good person, and I think it's been even more. His character gets more infused as kind of being on that wrong side of things. Why am I even saying like there was a doubt in my mind? He looks like he would have been Hitler's best friend. Okay, so he's like I said, he's like the whitest guy in the universe, and I got pale legs, man. He is still whiter than me. Um, but anyway, in this, we have this great beginning scene of that Montrose had the book that George had, and he burns it. But they purposely show him reading that front page, foreshadowing. But in his booze-filled, and who hasn't had a night like Montrose is having right now, huh? I don't know, maybe just me, but I've had nights where you're drinking a lot and you're like, what's wrong with the world? But he has the book and he burns it. And then he says, smells like Tulsa, which, that's another reference to the Tulsa Massacre, which means, was Montrose there? Or was that just a line? And that's another horrifying event. That at least was brought up in Watchmen last, was it already last year or was it earlier this year? I review a lot of stuff. But that was a big part of the Watchmen story. Also, turns out Christina, who she's a weird looking girl. Okay, I just want to say this right now. She's also, the blonde hair, blue eyes, whatever, but she's just kind of an odd looking character. Her I'm not trying to say she's ugly or anything. She's just kind of odd looking to me. But she, like a vampire, can't come into the house. But this is more of like a kind of protection spell to ward off evil, right? She just can't walk into the house like a vampire. She's not, but I'm just saying. It just made me think of like every season of Buffy whenever a vampire would try to get into the house without invitation. Except this has the mark on the door. So at least, hey, we know that works. But she wants the orrery, which is the planet's the planet machine that will show all the rotation of the planets. But they don't have it. Who has it? Hippolyta has it. And she's got it down where they work on the Green Book. And where they're talking about that every locked thing has its key, more foreshadowing. This episode has a lot of foreshadowing in it. And this is kind of like our midway point in the season. So it's not surprising that they dropped this episode because while it does move the story forward a little bit, it's kind of like a big exposition kind of episode where we just get a lot of information. But the end. So Leti goes down to the library to confront Atticus. Sorry, it is 8:24 in the morning. About what he's been up to as pertains to Christina, as pertains to the pages and all this stuff that's going on. My favorite part about this whole thing is the kid in the library just trying to read. He was brilliant, just sitting there while they're talking normal voices, and he's like slamming his pen. He walks away. I really love that part. But he's trying to tell Letty that he's trying to find the vault so that they can get the pages, so they get their own protection spells, because he's not going to Florida until he knows everybody's safe. Again, with this Florida thing, I don't think he's ever going to get down there, and we're probably, I would say, not, but probably like episode 6 or 7, I would say we're going to get some kind of um, backstory on Atticus and some of the stuff that he's holding on to. I think we need at least part of an episode to deal with that because there's only, I think, 8 episodes this season. Um, anyway, he finds out that Montrose checked out the book, and so they go after him to talk about like what does he know, but he doesn't want to help at all because he's like, you can't win this game. But we already know that he knows more than he's letting on. He says something about the 34 lodges, so he's like nails that number down. But he agrees to go with because he thinks he knows where, because he's basically afraid they're going to get themselves killed. Although I don't really know in his state what he's going to be able to do to help. But, he knows that they're going to do it either way, so he wants to help them have backup. So they have this whole trip, and unfortunately, the only person with a car is Hippolyta, and so her daughter, and another guy from one of the guys from the party from their past, their childhood, the guy who was like trying to step in front of Atticus so for Letty, like, hey, I like her, blah blah blah. And I think that guy is one of the reasons why Atticus kind of felt like Letty had been getting around, because of what he says later in this episode, making it sound like, Letty had been putting out before Atticus and her had sex. And that's just typical guy talk, which is horrible in it of itself. Guys saying that they've slept with girls that they haven't slept with. That shit gets around and it ruins self-esteem, self-confidence, reputations. Also that we can say we're big men, but that's a whole other ball of wax. Don't do that, guys. um, Also, the car's name is Big Old Willie. And it's made of wood. Sometimes the low-hanging fruit, I can't help it. It's good still. Um, Another thing, and look, it's just a little thing, is the modern music keeps throwing me off. Whenever they play stuff from the time period, I'm like, I go right with it. But the modern music, it really kind of throws me off, and I kind of go, what? It's kind of jarring. Um, but there's a subplot in here about Letty's sister Ruby. We all know that she wanted to get a job at a department store. She goes in there. I believe, she's got the paperwork in hand again to like, you know, go to Marshall Fields and apply, but she sees there's another black girl there, and she leaves because she doesn't believe that they'd hire, more than one. And what hurts for her is that the girl is just like, oh, I just did this on a whim. Which we might as well just talk about her plot right now. So she's feeling bad. She's in a bar. She was singing. Nobody was appreciating her song. And there's William, like I said, the, white boy Hitler Youth model. And he comes over, and this is where you can see already where this is going. Christina couldn't get anything from Letty, so they're going to try to work an in around with Ruby. So William puts the smooth talking on Ruby, which leads to a night of, I guess, passionate sex. And you could tell that they're just going to work into her head, promise her a lot of things, show her a world that she could be a part of, that kind of thing, and then probably just use her and dump her. because they want the orrery. But Ruby doesn't have the orrery either. Um, but and especially with the trailer for next week, you can see that they're really working her head. Um, and this is where we get to the museum, right? And the tree joke, where he's like, you know why they call me Tree, right? Well, most guys only have two legs. I have tree. Okay, that the fact that the joke is they didn't say three right. You know they, but I love her comeback. Her comeback's better is because she just slams him like, oh, don't you remember when you had, when you fucked me that summer, like, and he puts, like, it tells him she knows that, he was talking about her, and he shuts up. Then he just disappears for the rest of the episode. See, I thought he was going to be a red shirt, and then he was going to, like, suddenly somehow, like, I followed you to the museum, I fell down the hole, and then something kills him. Like, maybe that goes across, I don't know. But a security guard lets them in at the end of at nightfall, and they find, they see the statue, they find the map, they find the secret entrance. It's all pretty handily done and quickly, thankfully. We're not all fumbling around looking for things for like 20 minutes. Meanwhile, William beats up some cops that were checking out Christina. Couldn't tell if they were just plainclothes cops or if they were feds, but it doesn't really matter. But he even mentions when they get to the hole and they start going down, he's like, this is some center of the earth shit. Just like the book the boy was reading in the library. I wondered if that was going to be a thing, like a little foreshadowing mention. So they get down in there and they find this huge, long plank. And so they have to go, and it's booby trapped. That's where the scythe is going across, and then the plank starts disappearing. They drop one of the bags. It's all really exciting stuff. This whole rest part of the episode moves really quickly. Where they get to the end and there's a wall and the thing's disappearing, and they find out that it's a combination lock, and Montrose suddenly remembers the page of the book where it's like this was the order of things. In fact, the reason I remember this being like important is I was playing the game Dishonored 2, and there was a safe I needed to open, and it was all based on the order of pages in a book. So I guess it's something that happens. But it was like pretty convenient that he remembered all that he just read that and put it in as the code. And they confront Montrose because how did he know how to do it? And he tells him everything. It's just, I didn't want you guys being down here by yourself. You're going to die. And this is where we find out, yeah, somehow, all right, now, maybe underneath the ground there's some sort of magic spell, because they get from, by the end of where they started in Boston, they somehow end up in Chicago. So that tunnel did lead all the way back to the elevator. All right, so I know they didn't just walk from underground Boston to Chicago. There had to be some kind of crazy magic happening down there. So they find the elevator. They're in water up to their waist, and they find another lock. There's also a nice speech about fussing about loving between Montrose and Atticus. That was pretty nice. But he puts his hand in the lock where there was already a severed arm, and it starts bleeding him out. But the blood opens up, not the door, but a hatch opens up, and a ladder comes out. And I started thinking this is like the Goonies, And they go up, and literally it's like looks like a ship's hold. And I was thinking, wow, this really is the Goonies, where they find a skeleton, of course, with a bunch of scrolls wrapped in its arms. And when they go to touch it, well, the dead body ain't quite dead yet, and it becomes a woman, man, hermaphrodite, I guess you would say. She of like a Native American from, I guess, probably the Caribbean area where Titus had been going to, find all this magic stuff. Magic stuff. Anyway, he is not dead. And if I say it like that, it's because I was kind of taken aback. I was like, oh, okay. Don't care. Just didn't expect it. Well, it tells the story of what Titus did and that he killed all of her people and trapped her down there. Like a curse. And they take the scrolls, the whole place, just like the Goonies, right? Where they take the scroll and they take the thing, like I think it was the scales with the jewels or something, and it made a letter trapped and like caused everything to start falling apart. So they almost drown, they almost lose the pages, but once they're out, all of a sudden she can't talk to them. Become a siren. So basically, another curse like was put on that if she left, uh, she could no longer speak. She would only be like a siren. So they punch her, knock her out. Meanwhile, Hippolyta and her daughter are having to drive all the way back from Boston all by themselves because they apparently got a phone call saying, hey, we're already back in Chicago, which is not making Hippolyta very happy because, again, it's showing this time it's literally there's no, like, what are you fucking doing? What are you hiding? And she finds, George's atlas, which showed where they went to Devon County, and now they're headed there to find answers, which is not going to probably end well. But with Christina and William in Chicago and everybody else dead, they'll be fine. Maybe they'll just find a hole in the ground. I don't know. But it's kind of, and, with all the racist cops down there, maybe they're all dead, right? I don't know. Hopefully everything turns out well for them because they don't have backup. But the very end of this is that they explain that she's a siren and that she's not helping and that they're going to have to teach her English to help her decipher the pages. And Montrose has this great moment with Atticus telling him, how much he's proud of him. And it's a nice emotional moment, which leads right to betrayal, where he goes into the room where the siren is. And I knew it. I knew it. As soon as he walked behind her, I was like, he's going to kill her. And he slits her throat. And that's the end of the episode. He says, I'm sorry. So I feel like he's just, again, trying to protect Atticus. But at the cost of this woman, I don't know what, maybe she doesn't want to live, but, she's still alive. So he straight up murders her. And to me, well, he's going to have a hell of a better reason than just protecting my son. So anyway, that's the end of the episode. Again, pretty good. Less, not weak. Less on horror, more on adventure, and, exposition and story and character building here. Learning a little bit more about everybody and their motivations. So can't wait for episode 5 next week, which looks like it's going to be pretty Ruby heavy. As we see them trying to get their hooks deeper into her. And so see you guys next week. If you like this review, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell for all notifications. Otherwise, this is Rob saying we'll see you guys next week. Have a great weekend. Bye.